If you're not connecting with your kids and all you're doing is disciplining, then I would rather you not discipline. It's just not fair. Connection is number one. If all you're doing is dealing with the negative stuff, their behavior, then they're never going to feel good about themselves. They're just going to realize everything they're doing wrong all the time. Whereas if you're connecting with them, playing with them, remember, fun is their love language, they think of themselves in a positive way, not a negative way. You want their identity to be wrapped up in the positive, not in the negative. If all you're doing is disciplining, they're just going to feel bad about themselves.
My 4-year-old boy hits kids all the time. He knows what he does is bad, but he just won't stop. What can we do?
I don't ever try to avoid a scene. If I know I'm doing the right thing and a kid's going to have a tantrum because they don't like it, I make sure I do it. Welcome to the Brat Busters Parenting Podcast. My name's Lisa Bunnage. I'm a parenting coach. I'm a mom. I'm also a grandmother.
And I'm Amy Bunnage, Lisa's daughter, and I handle the marketing and planning here at Brat Busters. While I don't have kids, each episode will dive into parenting topics and Lisa will answer your questions. Let's get started.
Okay, sweetie, what are we talking about today? This is the third in our series, the Calm Leadership Parenting series. So which one, what are we talking about? Because she does all this. She organizes all this.
So today's topic is discipline basics and staying calm during the storms.
Okay. Yep. Discipline basics. Okay, so we're talking about toddlers and older kids.
We are. I think that this could be helpful. I'm just going to go through the ages to see how you approach discipline because you do approach it quite differently. Like that's why you have your boot camp split up. You have the toddler boot camp, then you have the 3 to 12 because your methods do change.
They're very different.
So how do you approach, let's just start right at the beginning. How do you approach it with a baby?
Okay, with a baby, when they're about 8 months old, they might start to hit or bite or something. So you're just letting them know that that's wrong. They're not going to clue in right away, but you're just using a very gentle no, and then you use redirection, okay? There's no real discipline. It's just teaching them that this isn't something that you want. Okay, and then when they hit about 16 months around there, it's kind of a gray area, but about 16 months. So when they hit that age, then you're starting to correct them. So you're not just diverting their attention anymore. You might say no, and then you might take something away or remove them from the fun. So you're either removing them from the fun or removing fun from them, just for a few minutes or whatever, as when they're really little. And then they will start to learn that way. I call that consistent corrective actions, and it's got to be right in the moment. And you're not discussing it just because they're not listening anyway. They're all about actions. They're not about words. Okay, so it has to be right in the moment. You can't delay it and say later on, by the way, you bit me earlier, so now you can't do that. Okay, so it's right in the moment. That's toddlers 16 to 35 months. Then at 3, it can be a little bit before 3, but I always say all kids can learn this at 3, but some of them maybe a month earlier, but not much. Okay, then you're going to the behavior board because they're starting to learn how to stop and think before they act. They're not just all impulsive like toddlers are, okay? So now you can have a behavior board, and on there, you're on there too. Everybody has a rule past the age of 3 and above. Everybody has a rule and everybody has a consequence. Check out my website, bratbusters.com, for more information on that. The behavior board's a free mini course, and it also has a toddler section in it, so we're covering both. Teenagers are a little bit different in that you're backing off a little bit more, so you're not addressing everything as much. You're letting more stuff go. You're negotiating more with teenagers, and your expectations should be lowered because they're going to start to exercise their own independence, and a lot of parents struggle with that. Doesn't mean that you're okay with bad stuff like, going out and being crazy all night kind of stuff, but maybe a messy room is okay, stuff like that. So yeah, it's sort of the same, but you're pulling back a little bit because you want them to be their own leaders. They're going into that, okay?
So something I do want to touch on is you said all kids. I know that you speak in absolutes. That's just more your way. But of course, there are exceptions.
Unless they have challenges or unless there's been some trauma or, there's exceptions to that. But basically, all kids can start to learn about consequences at 3 years old.
Now, I have in the title, I have calm during the storms in there. What does that mean to you and why do you say that?
Okay. The storm is when they're bad or when they do something naughty. That's the storm, or when you get angry. When you feel it coming on, you want to present a really calm exterior. You can be as angry as you want, but you never want to show anger, frustration, or disappointment in your kids. It brings out the worst in them because it makes them feel bad. When they feel bad, they do bad. When they feel good, they do good. So what I do is, let's say a kid did something bad. I'd say, okay, so you hit your little sister, so here's your consequence, okay? So that's how I do it. See how I have that little lilt in my voice even? There's no discussing it. We don't discuss bad behavior here because where you put your energy, where you put your focus is what grows. They already know know right from wrong. You don't need to talk about it. When you're pulled over for a speeding ticket, does the police start talking about, when did you get your license? You should know better than that. Why would you do that? They don't do that because they know that that's shaming and blaming and it brings out the worst in you. They're trained with all this stuff. It's the same method. You just you address it. You say, okay, so you made a mistake. Here's your consequence, and then forget it. Just hand out the consequence and then drop it.
I know that we have discussed this, but I think especially in this episode, it could be helpful is I think a lot of people's intentions with discussing the bad behavior is that kids will understand.
It has nothing to do with understanding. At this age, they at 3 years old and even younger, they know right from wrong already. It's not a lack of understanding that makes them do the bad thing. It's the lack of impulse control and the lack of consequences. And the consequences handle the impulse control. They can learn to stop and not do it once they know there's going to be a consequence. They all learn through consequence. It has nothing to do with understanding. We all know we shouldn't speed. Do we still sometimes do it? It's the lack of impulse or the lack of a fear of a consequence. If we think we might get away with something, we might do it. We might roll through a stop sign or speed a bit, but if we knew for a fact we were going to get caught and get a ticket for it, we would never do it. Okay? It's the same thing. Same thing with kids. If they know for a fact that they're always going to get a consequence if they make that bad decision, they're just going to stop doing it.
And then I think I want to go over just a few common discipline methods that I want to get your opinion on so people understand where you're coming from. So the first is warnings.
Warnings. I thought you were going to mention the top 4.
I'm not, well, I didn't specifically, but I have quite a few here to mention.
Okay.
So
Okay. Anyway, warnings are if you do that, you'll get in trouble. In other words, you're basically telling them to do it. Don't even discuss it. Let them go do whatever they're going to do, and then you come in later with the consequence. Don't try and prevent bad behavior unless it's something dangerous, obviously. Let them make their own choice, and then you come in with a consequence if they make a bad one. That's teaching them to have self-discipline. If you're warning them, you're not giving them any control. And they're not going to have self-discipline. You're just raising self-obedient, or you're raising kids who are obedient soldiers. We do not want that. We want kids who make good choices. We don't want obedient little soldiers who just do whatever we say. That's ridiculous. It's not something that you can continue. It's not something that will work long term.
I think also with warnings, you hear almost the phrase of, why are you doing that? You have this much time to not do that. And
it's kind of a shameful thing to say. Now imagine if you were, let's say your spouse said to you, make sure you're not late tonight. How would you react to that? Make sure you're not late. Like, it's an insult, isn't it? It's nasty. Think about it. It's an insult. It's patronizing. It's condescending. It's going to bring out the worst in them.
the next is timeouts.
Can't stand timeout. You go over there, you're not even worth talking to. You go sit in a corner all by yourself and you think about what you did. And then when you're done with that 5 minutes, whatever that you said they had to sit there for, then you go over and then you discuss it with them again. It's just shaming, blaming, and bullying. It's mean. Can't stand it.
And then countdowns.
Countdown is when you can count down if you want them to do something positive. Okay, 5 minutes, then we're leaving. We've got to go to school in 5 minutes. 4 more minutes. That's okay because they're not doing anything naughty. But if you count down to get them to stop doing something, that's a disaster. It goes something like this. I'm going to give you, if you're hitting your little sister, I'm going to count to 3. And if you don't stop, you're in trouble, mister. So while you're counting, he keeps hitting. And then he stops. He, of course, breaks as soon as you get to 3. And then there's no consequence. He's learned nothing. He's just learned that he can be rotten in the short term, but not in the long term. That's all it's a mixed message. It's horrible. It's actually my least favorite one.
Something I do think that would be important to touch on is yelling.
Yelling is something that you're out of control and it scares them. It always makes them feel bad about themselves. They don't tend to get mad at you. They tend to feel like crap about themselves. So think about what you're doing to your kids. It drags them down. If you did yell or if you do yell today, just put it on the behavior board and your rule is no yelling and just stop doing it. Or if you do it, there's a consequence when you do and you'll eventually learn not to do it. Yelling is, every single kid I've ever asked this question of has said they'd rather be spanked than yelled at. Because I'll say, which would you rather? Would you rather be yelled at or spanked? I don't condone either. But it's interesting that they've all chosen being spanked over yelled at. They hate being yelled at. It makes them feel bad.
Now, what is your response if someone goes, well, Lisa, my kid only listens when I yell?
Yeah, it's temporary. It's going to work for the short term, but not for the long term. And yellers raise yellers, and it also builds resentment down the road. They may be really good at listening to you because it's a fear-based parenting method, okay? You're intimidating them, you're making them fearful of you. That's why it works. You do not want, that is not sustainable long term at all. It's going to backfire down the road.
You've had some, because I look at your comments online when you mention yelling. I think that as well, you've talked about the fact that it almost causes them to tune you out because they know that you're going to escalate.
Yeah, they're waiting for the escalation. Why would they listen the first time if they know you're going to keep yelling? I don't repeat myself. If I say something, "Oh, we have to go," and then they don't follow through, there's going to be a consequence if they don't.
Yeah, and then looking at the comments, there's been something interesting that got brought up in the comments, and I want your thoughts on it. Someone said, because you often say that you never yell when you're in control. People are like, well, in Marine or Army or even sporting events, they go, those people are in control and they're yelling. What's the difference
Well,
there?
because we're not in the military and we're not in a sporting event. This is parenting, okay? There's a lot of stuff that's done with leadership as a teacher, as a coach, and as a boss. There's lots of different things that are done that might work in those fields. Parenting is different. It's personal. It's a very different relationship from anything else. That's why a lot of my clients are teachers, principals, and child psychologists, who I have the utmost respect for. I could never do their jobs, but they often struggle with parenting because they think they can take that same knowledge and cross it over into parenting. Nope. It's a whole other thing. Parenting's a specialty. It's a whole other thing. Also, I want to say most parents do yell, by the way. So don't judge yourself. I'm not judging you if you yell. I'm just saying I'm just explaining why you shouldn't, why you want to train yourself out of it. But most parents do yell because it does work in the short term, but they never feel good about doing it. So I'm just teaching you what else to do instead. That's all.
And then what about threats?
Yeah, if you do this, that'll happen. It's just like leading them into it. You're sort of saying, I know you're going to do it. It's insulting. It's insulting. It's like if you say to your kids, "We're going out for dinner tonight, be on your best behavior." What if your spouse said that to you? Think about it. It's insulting. It's patronizing, condescending. It's mean.
And then before we get into the questions, what do you think one of your number one questions around discipline is?
I don't know. I've got so many.
Consequence ideas.
Oh, consequence ideas. Yeah. Oh, very good. Yeah, it is. It's a really common one. I thought it was going to be something more heavy hitting than that. But everyone wants to know what's the most effective, best consequence? There is none. It's sort of just anything can be a consequence. It's a good deed. And you always have two consequences for the kids. Your consequence, if you break a rule, is something fun for them. Okay. It's all explained in the free behavior board. Now, their consequences, the first one is a positive action. So it's just do a chore within 15 minutes of being asked to do so. The chore should only be about 2 minutes. It can be just wiping down the fridge, the front of the fridge. It could be just picking up 10 toys in 15 minutes or 15 toys in 15 minutes. It could be straightening out your shoes at the front door, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just doing a good deed. You did something bad. Now you're going to replace it with something good. So if that was negative, now this is positive. That's why I call it a positive action. They don't have to hate it. Okay. Now the second consequence, if they refuse to do the first one, so they have two choices here. They can choose to break the rule. That's their choice. Then they can choose to do the positive consequence. That's their choice. Then that's two strikes, you're out. If they break the rule, then they won't do the positive action consequence. Then you come in with the negative deprivation. You take something away from them.
And I think something that you get asked a lot when it comes to consequence is, does the punishment have to fit the crime?
No, sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's just convenient. Um, well, I just did one this morning, but I don't want to discuss what I discussed with a client, but it was perfect. The punishment fit the crime perfectly, but it doesn't have to, okay? But yeah, it doesn't really matter. But sometimes it is appropriate. Like one I like to do is if they hit someone, then I like them to do something nice for that person. That is the punishment fitting the crime. So let's say that they hit their little brother. Then I would like them to have to give their favorite toy or their favorite activity to that little brother for the next 30 minutes. And you can't play with them. I will. Okay. So that's a perfect one of the punishment fitting the crime. Okay. So you hit your little brother, you were mean to him. Now you're going to do something nice for him.
And then before I get into the parenting questions, I just want to make the note is the episode before this was all about connection. Talk about the idea of your thoughts on discipline if you're not connected with your kids.
Okay, if you're not connecting with your kids and all you're doing is disciplining, then I would rather you not discipline. Because it's just not fair. Connection is number one. If all you're doing is dealing with the negative stuff, their behavior, then they're never going to feel good about themselves. They're just going to realize everything they're doing wrong all the time. Whereas if you're connecting with them, playing with them, remember fun is their love language, then they think of themselves in a positive way, not a negative way. You want their identity to be wrapped up in the positive, not in the negative. If all you're doing is disciplining, they're just going to feel bad about themselves.
And you often, one of your favorite lines is, if they feel good, they do good.
I think I already said that in this. I might not have. If they feel good, they do good. If they feel bad, they do bad. That's what you're working towards. If you feel good about yourself, are you ever rude? Do you ever do anything rotten? Like, think about it. If you feel happy, having a really good day, you're on top of the world, you feel great about yourself, don't you kind of treat people great? Good morning, hello, like that, you know? So that's what it's like. If they feel good, they do good. If they feel bad, they do bad. So you want them to feel good. And they can be mad at you. Okay, it's okay if they're mad because you laid down the law because they're not allowed to hit someone or whatever, but you don't want them to feel sad. There's a difference. It's okay that they're mad because you laid down the law and you didn't let them have the, I don't know, grab the chocolate after dinner or something that they weren't allowed to have. That's okay that they're mad, but if they feel bad about themselves or sad, that's different.
What kind of consequence did you have for me with the fruit cup?
With a fruit cup, I don't remember. That was a long time. That was like 27 years ago. What, do you remember?
No, I don't.
I don't remember. They didn't do things very often, but she was sneaky and she did not like these fruit cups and she didn't like fruit. So she had to have fruit cups and it was like apples with raspberries was the flavor that she liked the most. So that was, well, she didn't even like it, but she had to eat that every single day. So you know what, in the onion box, I had this box in the pantry and it was full of onions and potatoes, right? So I went in there and I thought, gee, something smells funny. I pulled the box out and there was all these fruit cups in there. They were all opened because I opened the foil, the top off the foil. Or the foil top. They were all open and moldy and rotten. She'd been hiding them in there. I was horrified. You know, it was funny. As soon as I went, what is this? I couldn't find her after that. She completely disappeared. I heard the footsteps running down the hallway. I don't know. You probably would have done some chore or something. I probably would have taken something away for that one. Yeah.
That was a good one.
That was a good one. So, and that was one of the few times you ever did anything. We keep talking about that, but what else did you ever do?
I'm sure I've done lots of stuff.
Not much. Not much.
But the fruit cups was one.
Do you remember what you did every time you would do something naughty or something, or when I wasn't happy with you about something? Do you remember what you did?
I used to write apology notes.
And love letters. You're the most wonderful, special mom in the whole wide world. She did. I kept them. I've still got them.
I am a guilt-ridden soul. It is my personality.
I love you more than anything in the whole wide world. I'm so disappointed in myself, and I'm like, geez, get over it.
If I disappoint someone that I care about, it is like, oh,
it's well, me too. So you get that from me actually, but I didn't write love letters to my mom like that. They were just beautiful letters. I kept them. They were beautiful.
Oh, okay, let's get into the parenting.
But she still got a consequence. She didn't do that to get out of a consequence, by the way. Some kids will do that. They'll say, I'm really sorry. I love you. Okay, never mind then.
I did it to resolve my own guilt.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, we have the first question here is Michaela from Slovakia. How exactly should I behave in this situation? My kid will be 4 in March. So for example, the rule is to get dressed in 10 minutes. Kid didn't do it. The consequence is dishes. Kid didn't do it. So then a 24 media blackout. Later breaks another rule. So didn't wash hands after coming home and hit another kid. So is there a consequence? Right? Because the 24-hour media blackout was for another rule. But the kid doesn't do this consequence either. What now? No cars or favorite toy for 24 hours?
Sorry, I got confused really early on there. Okay, it sounds like you got, how many behavior boards do you have? Maybe you got to master one thing and before you move on to another. So yeah, you said that she doesn't do this and she doesn't do that. It sounds like she's already got 3 behavior boards going.
Let's say that that's the hypothetical.
Okay, so she's got 3 behavior boards going, and so it's the third strike, you're out. So let's say she does one thing naughty, and then you have the first consequence. Then she does she breaks another rule, then there's another positive action consequence. The third time, I would say, and let's say this happens early on in the day. The third time she does something naughty, you say, I'll tell you what. We'll discuss this after dinner. So rather than continually giving out these consequences, after dinner, you say, I'll tell you what, today wasn't a good day. You did a few things naughty today. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go straight to media blackout. Okay. So it's like third strike, you're out. That's what you do. Just stay calm. And then parents will say, but they don't really understand. They'll learn as you go. If they say, not fair, I didn't know, say, well, that you'll know next time, won't you? She's a bit little for that, but you kind of want to get the attitude, like, just follow through because you're doing the right thing. They will eventually catch on. They don't need to know right away, especially when they're little. She's only 3.5. She'll start to figure it out, though. Just follow through. You're being very fair and reasonable. Just follow through.
Okay, the next question, and I hope I pronounced this correct. So Esma from Bosnia and Herzegovina. My 4-year-old boy hits kids all the time. He knows what he does is bad, but he just won't stop. What can we do? P.S. He doesn't watch TV or use a phone, but still is very aggressive. Please help.
Okay, I would put on the behavior board, no hurting other people, and then when he does, there's a consequence. Just start there. And you said you didn't mention anything else. He's just hurting other people all the time. What is he like at home? Do you give in and let him get his own way? If he's hurting people at school, like it sounds like he could be entitled, by the way. It sounds like you're kind of appeasing him or giving in to him too much at home. So, like, just to avoid a scene, I don't ever try to avoid a scene. If I know I'm doing the right thing and a kid's going to have a tantrum because they don't like it, I make sure I do it. Okay. So make sure that you follow through with things that need to be done. So it sounds to me like he's a little bit entitled. If he's hurting people at school, have the teacher report to you. And then when he gets home, say, okay, let's go to the board. No hurting other people is on the board. So if you do, then there's going to be a consequence. Follow through with that. Now, what I like to do is if they're hurting kids at school on a regular basis and it's a real problem, then I would say this. I would say, I'll tell you what, you hit that kid. So what we're going to do, we're going to give him your favorite toy, something that he loves, and that kid gets to play with it that the next day. He gets to take it home, or it could even be a whole weekend. So you're actually giving to be you were mean to someone, now you're going to do something nice for them. They get to play with your such and such, whatever, something that they really like, and give it to that other and check with the family, work that out. But yeah, so in other words, you were mean to someone, now you can learn how to be nice to them.
And you talk about the fact that even though you call them consequences, the more ideas that you're making amends for what you've done.
That's really what it is. It's just about accountability. You're just teaching them that you're accountable for everything you say and do. That's it. Except saying with kids, it's the only thing that you address with attitude and what comes out of their mouth is just name calling and bad words. But basically, as they get older too, like you're accountable for your actions. That's it. That's all we're teaching here. That's why you're on the board too. If you're not accountable, you're not a leader. You're not setting a good example. Leaders lead by example, not by lectures. The authority leads by lecturing. A leader leads by example.
Okay, the next one is Tina from the United States. What do you suggest if the 11-year-old will not complete either consequence on the behavior board? I know you hold the consequence, but then what? Do you start stacking the consequence? So, for example, the rule is no hurting, consequence is vacuuming floor for 15 minutes and a 24-hour media blackout.
Okay, you said he won't do either one. Well, you have control over the 24-hour media blackout, so I don't understand that. He won't do both consequences, you said? So that doesn't make any sense. So you have control over the second consequence. You have control over media. So if you have other kids, then the other kids go in a separate room, like in master bedroom with a smaller screen to watch TV or whatever. But the whole family suffers a little bit. And by the way, if there's other siblings that do get to watch TV when he doesn't, they're usually quite happy to go in the master bedroom with a smaller screen because that brother doesn't get anything. So usually works out that way. But yeah, and then you stay out and you say to him, if he's got 24-hour media blackout, you just say to him, hey, I'm going to do it with you because there's no way I'd be looking at screens if I've got a kid with media blackout. So you say, I'm going to do it with you. Do you want to play a game? No way, I'm not playing a game with you. And say, okay, never mind. And then a half hour later, oh, you ready for that game now? Keep trying to connect. Show him you're not mad. He just gets media blackout. That's all. So yeah, that didn't make much sense because you should have control over that second consequence.
Okay, the next one is Kelsey from the United States. My 22-month-old daughter is constantly hitting my 3-year-old daughter. My 3-year-old will not retaliate, but will get very upset, and this usually results in a tantrum from both kids when I try to diffuse the situation. What techniques can I use to show my 22-month-old that this behavior is not okay?
Yeah, it's just consistent corrective actions. Just keep pulling the 22-month-old away from the fun and then console the 3-year-old in front of the 22-month-old. I don't know why the 3-year-old's getting upset over that. And you know what I would also say? Often little sisters or little brothers are pests, especially at that age. Like my granddaughter's 22 months old. She wouldn't understand you can't bother your 3-year-old sister. She doesn't have a 3-year-old sister, but she wouldn't really understand that because she thinks, well, I want to play with you. Why don't, she just would assume they'd want to play with her too. So what you could say to the 3-year-old, say, look, if you don't want to share your toys and you want to do something different, here's what you can do, and have a separate area where she can go in and get her own space. That's really important because a lot of older siblings don't have their own space. But I would have an allocated time in the day for, let's say, 1 hour after dinner where you can just go in our bedroom with your favorite Barbies or whatever she wants to play with, and that's her own time. She often won't want that anyway. She'll often want the 22-month-old in with her. That's usually what ends up happening.
I do remember when I had the realization that, wow, I'm just not quite as interesting to my older brother as he is to me.
That's right. And that's the way it is, right? So, and he was such a good brother. He was so nice to you. And you weren't a pesty type of kid, but I remember that you were shot. You said, well, he doesn't want to. Okay. Can I tell the story about whenever you had a birthday party?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Her brother's very funny and he's very extroverted and he's very loud. Anyway, they're like 35 and 30 now. Anyway, so she would have a birthday party and she says, Mom, can you please tell him to not to come in the pool with all my friends because he just takes over. They just want to be with him. So I'd say, sure. So he didn't care if he was in with all these, look at their 5-year difference, right? He didn't care if he was in with all these 5-year-olds. He's 10 years old. So I'd say, oh, sweetie, can you just get out of the pool and let her have her friends to herself? And he goes, sure. And he'd just go, go inside. And then the party would die. Because he was the entertainment. And then she'd say, can you please ask him to come back out again because the party's dying?
I remember one of the first years that I didn't have him around for one of my parties. I would have been, I think, like 12. We were in the basement of our house and we were all dancing. Don't ask me why, but I don't know, a bunch of 12-year-old girls. We're all dancing, and I decide it's a great time to do a high kick while wearing tights and a denim mini skirt that was very tight. I did the high kick. The other leg went flying up with it, and I landed on my tailbone. And I remember crying my eyes out at my birthday party, and I was no fun. And I remember that hurt my tailbone for like a week.
Well,
But
that's why
yes,
we needed your brother around because he wasn't doing any high kicks with a short skirt on. But she went upstairs in her room, and I had to go up and look out. The party just died.
uh,
We needed him. He was the life of the party. Oh, it
okay.
was funny.
The next question here is Brittany from the United States. How do I successfully do a 24-hour media blackout with one child, 9, when the other, 4, isn't in a media blackout?
Yeah, I already talked about that. You never sequester the one who has media blackout. They get the run of the house except the master bedroom or some other room that's just specific for this. The other kids get to go in the master bedroom with a smaller screen. That's how you do it. And then when you're with the kid who does have media blackout, you're trying to connect with them. Say, hey, do you want to play a game? If they say, no, I hate you, just say, okay, never mind. Half hour later, you ready for that game now? See my tone? I don't discuss the bad behavior. I don't discuss anything like that. I'm just trying to connect and bond with them.
Okay, we have one final question. So, Francine from the United States. What do you do when 2 toddlers the same age aren't sharing and the parent of one of them says to both of them, so and so isn't sharing and not being nice and takes the other toddler away?
I can't answer that. You're asking me to critique someone else's parenting? Nope. If I don't like the way someone's handling their kid around mine, I say nothing. Nothing. If they're hitting my kid, I might pull my kid away. So I never micromanage other parents. I never tell them how to parent. You're here soliciting my advice. I never give unsolicited advice, and I never parent other people's kids. If I'm looking after them, it's a little bit different. But if the parents are there, none of my business what they do with their kids. None of my business. And that goes for my kids and my grandkids. They're not my kids. That's my grandchild. I do not micromanage. I don't give any advice. They're doing a great job anyway, but I still wouldn't.
I can assume that would be tough, especially with friendships, if you have a friend who is parenting their kid very differently and it bleeds into the friendship.
It can, and for sure, if they're being aggressive, I did lose a friend over that because her kid was hitting mine, and she wouldn't do anything about it. That kid ended up being kicked out of about 4 different high schools. He ended up being a real tyrant. So anyway, but yeah, she didn't know what she was doing, and I just had to stop the friendship because we never saw each other outside of the kids. Whereas I had friends who maybe weren't disciplining the way I would. Their kids were more wild, but they weren't hurting my kids, and I just none of my business, right? Or else if we had a friendship outside of kids, I'd just say, hey, how about we just go out for dinner without the kids? So, but yeah, I would dump friends. If I had to be around someone and their kids were hurting mine, I would just dump them. I'd get rid of them.
Okay, that was it for the questions.
Okay, I think that discipline and staying calm during the storms. You can be crazy during the rainbows, though. Like I used to chase my kids around the house every day when I was doing laundry with underpants on my head. I was the panty monster, and they loved it. So you can be crazy during the rainbows. But if my kids had ever acted out, let's say I had underpants on my head and I'm chasing them around the house. Okay, they're all laughing. If they had done anything rude or disrespectful, I would have just stopped, calmly taken the underpants off my head, and I would have said, "We'll try again tomorrow." That's all I would have had to have said. My kids would have gone, oops, like they would have known. Okay, I'm very consistent. If they ever acted out or anything, I was very calm, but I was very consistent. I never let anything go, ever.
I can't find the video, but someone did share on social media that they started chasing their kids around with underpants on their head.
Well, what I did was I did laundry every single day. We lived in Australia, and I hung out the laundry on the line. So when I brought it in, I would lay it all out in our bed and separate it all, but I'd put all my underpants on my head, and the leg holes were my eye holes. And whenever I was doing that, the kids would be in the background screaming and running because they knew Panty Monster was getting ready.
How do you even explain that to your friends?
Well, I stopped when you were about 16.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was only when they were about 2, maybe 3. But yeah, they were laughing. They loved it. And I loved it too. I was laughing with them. I wasn't trying to just entertain my kids. I was trying to have fun with them. And that's the difference. That's connection, is when you're having fun with them, not just entertaining them. I wanted to laugh too. I love laughing. Laughter is, by the way, fun is their love language. It's mine too. I love laughing. I love humor.
And I think that that is where, I mean, you talk a lot about discipline and stuff because you get a lot of questions, but your goal you often talk about is that you want parents to have fun with their kids.
My goal is that you don't have to discipline like I didn't. So if all you're doing is having fun with your kids and you're really connected and they know if they do make a poor choice, you're going to come in with a consequence, you never have to discipline. So that my goal is always, I always say my goal is that you enjoy parenting and you're not going to enjoy it if they're acting out. So my goal is always that you have fun with your kids and you enjoy parenting and they're happy. They have high self-esteem. They like themselves. It's all positive.
Envisioning you with the eye hole from one of the legs from the underwear. You're looking and you see a moldy fruit cup.
Oh, right. Those underpants would have come off my head.
There are some times where you had to cut the fun.
I did. And that was it. That was pretty much all I had to do because I would just not be fun mom for a while. And they liked fun mom. Even though I wasn't always playing with them, we were always chatting. Like I don't like playrooms when they're not with you. I wanted my kids right around my feet playing. I like my kids around me all the time. We were chatting. They were very respectful and nice kids, but they felt very respected too. They knew I enjoyed them. They knew I wallowed in them. I loved mothering. It was the most fun I ever had. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. But I made sure that those kids were easy kids to be around too. And that's what I'm guiding you to do. It's very hard to wallow in parenting when your kids are telling you to shut up and hitting you, okay? I'm teaching you how to discipline effectively so you don't have to deal with that stuff. But I want you to have fun with your kids. I want you to never have to discipline them or hardly ever. That's the end goal.
I think as well as if someone's really in the thick of it right now and they're hearing that and it just feels so far away, what kind of message do you have for them?
Well, talk to my, I don't ask my clients to do this, but I would love to one day bring some of my clients in on this stuff. And so they can talk about their own experience. And they always say at the end, once they get it, they say, I get it. It's all about me. And I go, yeah, it's all about your own control over yourself. And then they all say, once they get it, they go, oh, it's so easy once you get it. It's like anything, though. You're changing a part of your personality. You're changing your regular routines and habits. And what feels natural to you might be yelling. See, I was never yelled at, so I never yelled. So to me, yelling wasn't natural. So I found another way. But if yelling is natural to you, it doesn't have to stay that way. You can change. And they all say the same thing. Once I got it, it was so easy to do. But getting there is the hard part.
Okay, I think that's a good place to end.
Okay, thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow with the 4th part in the series.
And you don't know what that is yet.
I never know what's happening. She does all the planning and organizing. Anyway, thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back again tomorrow. Happy parenting.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're ready to dive deeper, check out bratbusters.com to learn more about the Behavior Board, parenting courses, and private one-on-one coaching with Lisa. If you've enjoyed the show so far, we'd love it if you could take a moment to follow, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more parents just like you. The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional advice. Lisa is a parenting coach, mom, and grandmother. She is not a licensed psychologist or counselor. Her services do not replace the care of psychologists or other healthcare professionals. For a full disclaimer, please visit bratbusters.com/disclaimer.